I'm gonna reroute the thermo drive.
Electronic mail failure.
Stored forever in a virtual library.
Computers can't swim.
They can now.
The data turbines, the website, it's alive.
Movies
And mainframes.
Hey everyone, and welcome to Season 2 of Movies and Mainframes, the podcast that is going to explore and discuss the representation of technology in media. I am your host, Andy, and with me today, I have two returning guests. I have Chrystal Taylor and Kevin Sparenberg. Well, I'm so glad y'all could join me on this special little kickoff episode for Season 2, because today we are not going to talk about a movie. No, we are going to talk about 33 movies. Yes, we are going to break down and recap the 2024 Bracket Battle Challenge Hollywood Bytes. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, well, number one, shame on you. Number two, you need to head over to THWACK.com, look for the bracket battle, because every year the THWACK team puts together a bracket battle just in time for March Madness, but they are not talking about sports teams. No, they are talking about something much, much more important, things that are important to geek culture. And this year's theme was right up my alley. It was tech movies. Yes, 33 tech movies battling it out for cyber supremacy. Only one could win. There could be only one. That was a perfect Christopher Lambert. Yes. And so I thought it would be fun to kick off Season 2 with a little mini episode, and let's talk about the bracket. Like I said, 33 movies battling it out across 4 different divisions. And what I want to do for the listener, as quickly as we possibly can, list off these 33 movies, starting with the first division, Hack the Planet. These are movies that have your typical hacker storylines. Someone's always trying to break into the mainframe. And in this division, we have Hackers, War Games, Sneakers, Live Free or Die Hard, The Net, Black Hat, Real Genius, and Tron. In the next division, we have The Hubris of Man. These are movies where man decides to play God, and the outcome is always no bueno. Chrystal, if you would read the movies in that division.
We had Jurassic Park, Weird Science, Lawnmower Man, Transcendence, RoboCop, Upgrade, Ex Machina, and Short Circuit.
Very nice. Next division, Paranoid Android. These are movies where AI systems run amok, go rogue, causing havoc. Kevin, if you wouldn't mind reading off those movies.
Sure. So in Paranoid Android, we had 2001, A Space Odyssey, Colossus, The Forbin Project, Eagle Eye, AI, Artificial Intelligence, Westworld, the movie, not the show, I, Robot, Her, Office Space, which was technically a play-in winner. We'll get to that in a moment.
And then the last division, we have Tech Noir. These are movies where use of technology paints a very bleak and dark future for us all. We have The Matrix, Minority Report, Blade Runner, Johnny Mnemonic, Strange Days, Ghost in the Shell, The Terminator, and Total Recall. Yes, Kevin had mentioned Office Space. Office Space was actually a wild card play-in that won over Wall-E that was in Paranoid Android. So now we have 32 movies battling it out over 5 rounds. And I'm going to kick off the conversation real quickly with, I want to talk about War Games from 1983.
Brilliant choice.
Yes, War Games in this bracket, for me, did surprisingly well. Deservedly so. I love this movie, but I honestly thought, it being from 1983, this movie was going to age itself out, because this movie means a lot to me. But I've officially hit that age where I just assume everybody that I work with is younger than me. And so I didn't think it was going to go this far. War Games went all the way to the final 4. Mm-hmm. I just thought something like Hackers was going to beat out War Games. So I was surprised.
That first round was nail biting for that particular bracket. Hackers and War Games. And War Games came out with 300 votes. Which is basically like a 60 vote margin of win. Mm-hmm. But it was tight, like amazingly tight all the way through to the last 24 hours of voting.
I'll tell you, I have no like emotional attachment to either war games or hackers because I didn't watch them until about 10 years ago.
Okay.
So, and only because everyone I worked with at my previous job said they were going to revoke my geek card if I didn't watch them. They were very important to be watched. And so I did watch them. And I think War Games was a bit slow for me. Like the concept is very interesting, obviously. And the movie was good. But Hackers was much more of a fun movie for me. So I definitely voted for Hackers. But it was, and the comments were going off in there.
So
People felt very strongly about things one way or the other.
I know. I had so much fun in the comments, just random quotes. Everybody was doing movie mashups of like, oh, what if Jurassic Park met Weird Science? You know, it was had a lot of fun in the comments. It was interesting for me to watch War Games because on the other side of the bracket, there was kind of the same battle going on, but with a different outcome because we had Blade Runner from 1982 around the same time as War Games. Blade Runner has a huge cult following. It is considered a masterpiece by me, especially.
The director's cut is considered a masterpiece by...
Exactly.
Let's be clear.
And then Blade Runner in the Sweet 16 ends up going up against The Matrix, a 90s movie, and The Matrix destroys it. It's gone. And so it was interesting to me to see War Games go so far, but Blade Runner getting out pretty quickly.
I think that the difference is that while Blade Runner is a cult classic, The Matrix is a popular classic. So whether or not you're a fan of the old Blade Runner, the Matrix was formative for like most adults right now working in any kind of IT career, right? Like, I mean, I rewatched it. I rewatched part of it before we started recording this, and I was like, God, I gotta make my kid watch this. I gotta introduce him to this. He's the right age. It's still amazing. It still holds up. And the original Blade Runner, I don't feel like it is aged, right? Like you watch it and it feels its age, I think.
How dare you?
Yeah. Well, there are certainly things about the Matrix that I was watching it going, that's very 90s right there. That's very 90s. But I think that the overall concept held up.
For sure. Yeah. The Matrix is so good. I love that movie too. It's great.
And the themes kind of parallel in a couple places. So, like, I don't want to say specifically because I don't know what the Wachowski siblings were about, but it feels very much like if Blade Runner, instead of being, the replicants, instead of being that, you were just chucked into a battery farm. Is it the same movie? It's close. There's some themes.
One upset I just have to get off my chest because I
think I know the one.
I am angry at. I'm sorry, THWACK community, but I am angry. We had Sneakers on this bracket in 1992. I love this movie. In fact, I love it so much that it was the second episode we ever did for Movies and Mainframes. Please go back and listen to that episode. You can hear me and Tom gush about how much we love this movie.
It's a brilliant movie.
It fell flat. It just immediately lost first round, gone. And of all movies to beat it, it was beat by Live Free or Die Hard. Another movie that we covered in the first season. Go back and listen. You'll hear me and Tom have so many issues with this movie. And I'm going to say it. The only reason Live Free or Die Hard was voted for is because people love the first Die Hard so much. That's it.
Yep.
Fully agree.
I refuse to believe that if you chose a random grouping of people, sat them down on their couch on a Sunday afternoon, and you showed them a double feature of Sneakers and Live Free or Die Hard, that they would say, no, I like Live Free or Die Hard. That is a better movie. Absolutely not. No way. Go ahead.
I haven't seen Sneakers. I'll say that. I hadn't even heard of it until y'all recorded the episode for Movies and Mainframes. But I haven't seen it. But I do know, just not even related to that Live Free or Die Hard is not a good movie.
No. Because
in that universe, it still falls flat.
It's fun. I think you're right. I think they voted for it because it's a Die Hard film. Like that was it.
Absolutely. There are 5 movies in the Die Hard canon. Live Free or Die Hard is the 4th one. And at best, it is the 4th best Die Hard movie. And some would argue, mainly me, that it's the worst Die Hard. And I don't even like Part 5. I think Part 5 is a terrible movie. I don't even remember the moniker for Die Hard 5. Like Die Hard Hardest or something.
Die Harder.
And the only reason I make it the lowest, Live Free or Die Hard, is because at least the 5th one was rated R. Because if there's one thing I know about John McClane, he lives in a rated R world. He has no business being in a PG-13 movie.
Mm-hmm.
So shame on you, THWACK community.
Yeah, and
Sneak.
and as much as it and I won't lie, I think the three of us, and I certainly know others in the community, and I'm not calling anyone out, I'll just call us out. We were trolling the comments in more than a couple places, and it literally when Wall-E fell to Office Space, don't get me wrong, Office Space is a brilliant movie, but it makes me feel completely differently than Wall-E does.
Oh, absolutely.
That when Wall-E fell, I lliterally posted to people like the sad Wall-E gif. I'm like, this is your fault. You have done this. And there were also matchups that even for me as an individual, I'm like, that one's tough. Like even Jurassic Park, RoboCop, just because they are so pinnacle of their time and they are so entertaining in completely different ways. But they are so good as standalone units that it's hard to choose.
Let's talk about Office Space. So Office Space was the wild card play-in. It defeated Wall-E to get into the official bracket. And this was the little engine that could. Office Space
it went way farther than I thought.
Way farther than I thought. It went all the way to the Final Four. It beat out 2001 A Space Odyssey, what many consider a masterpiece by a master director, and I am okay with it. I love Office Space. Mike Judge just shined a light on corporate mediocrity so well that, whenever I watched that movie, I absolutely loved it, but I was like 19 at the time. And just like the masses, I didn't truly appreciate that movie until I had really been in the corporate workforce for a while. And then it just took on this whole other dimension, and it was like, oh, this is a documentary. This is crazy. I love this movie. Yeah, it's so
there
good.
Were a lot of comments about Office Space being the day-to-day. So it just kept carrying through. I think that movie resonates with me for both workers that they explore, because you also see Jennifer Aniston's character as a server working in that whole scenario. And when I watched this movie for the first time, that's what I was doing. So even without the corporate, it just keeps giving. It just keeps giving. It's such a good movie. And I was surprised by how far that it went, though, because it is not exactly a great tech movie. I mean, per se, when you compare it to 2001 A Space Odyssey, that's sci-fi, and there is so much more to it than that. I didn't think it was going to make it this far. It just goes to show you what the popular vote will do.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I think part of that is we didn't intentionally, and we do this for every bracket battle, we don't specifically say, what is your reason for voting? We're not saying the best representation of tech. We are not saying the one that makes you cry the most. Thank you, Pixar. We are not saying, any of those things. It's literally let's see what happens. And also let's see what the community uses as their own barometer. What are they using? And some of the comments were this movie is a perfect slice in time for this, but this movie is a feel good popcorn. So I had to go for that. It's I personally can't even do that breakdown. I have to think way more analytical, because otherwise I will just honestly, I should have just flipped a coin on more of them. I did literally roll a die on one of them because it was just too close for me.
Right. So let's talk about the final four of this bracket. So on one side of the division, representing Hack the Planet, we have War Games from 1983, and from the hubris of man, we have Jurassic Park. Now it's War Games versus Jurassic Park. Great movies. And Jurassic Park pulled out the win to secure its place in the finals. And it was a close race. Kevin, at one point you pulled stats when I think there was only like 6 hours left in the voting window.
Yeah.
And at that time, War Games was ahead, but by one vote.
Yeah.
And so at Jurassic, I don't have the final numbers, but Jurassic Park pulled it out at the end and squeaked out the win to get into the final. Very neck and neck race with that.
Yeah. The total difference, 6 votes.
6 votes. Wow.
6 votes between Jurassic Park and War Games. And I understand the dilemma here for people because both of them have pterodactyls. One that's live and one that's remote controlled. So
absolutely. Yeah.
In the Battle of Pterodactyl, unfortunately, it came to Jurassic Park.
I mean, if you're going to battle with pterodactyls, Jurassic Park's probably going to win. Jurassic Park was definitely.
I'm so bad about it.
Jurassic Park was definitely in my formative cinema. Like that is a pinnacle of cinema. Still, I will watch it. I watch all the new ones too. They're not as good. They're just
they don't
not
touch it.
But the original Jurassic Park, fantastic.
Absolutely,
still holds up.
Beautifully done. Dennis Nedry being the overworked, underappreciated, single IT guy, who just happens to be doing corporate espionage. That part's, that's for story. But him being overworked, underappreciated, and probably underpaid, that feels a little true to life.
Yes.
Yeah.
And on the other side of the bracket, we had representing Paranoid Android. It was the play-in wild card. So it's Office Space. So it doesn't quite fit in.
Yeah.
Unless we're going to take the Superman 3 plot that they used in Office Space and then Robert Bond turns into a robot. That's the connection there.
Yeah.
So we have Office Space, and representing Tech Noir, we have The Matrix. And of course, The Matrix, I believe.
Handily.
Yeah. You whipped
by
Office Space.
Significant amount.
Yes.
Not as high as you would think, though.
That's how much Office Space means to people.
It does, yeah. The Delta was 115 votes, which sounds, compared to the other bracket, yeah, that's a lot. But they were like 280 compared to like 200. So
gotcha.
It was significantly closer. And if anyone is interested in actually where these numbers lie, you can continue to go back to the bracket battle until next year when we set up a new one. Click on any of the brackets and you'll actually see the actual votes, not by individual, but the actual totals for anything that's been voted on that you voted on.
Yes. So now we have the final. We have Jurassic Park versus The Matrix, and The Matrix won. Matrix won it all.
Battle of childhood classics, though.
I know.
What are we talking? 4 years difference? Yeah.
Yeah.
Between the two?
6. Yeah. It was 93 and 99. Yeah.
Yeah. It was just insane.
How close was the final?
Final was closer than the previous round. But not these 6 votes. It was 216 for Matrix versus 126 for Jurassic Park.
Nice. Well, so Neo truly is the one. The Matrix wins the 2024 Bracket Battle Challenge Hollywood Bytes. And I thought, what a great way to kick off season 2 of Movies and Mainframes. Instead of me choosing the movie that we will cover, we will let the THWACK community choose what movie we will cover. And so I decided whoever won this bracket will be the premiere episode of season 2. And so look out for the episode of The Matrix coming out really in just a couple of days. In fact, when I hit stop record on this recording, me, Kevin, and Chrystal are going to sit down and talk about The Matrix. So I can't wait to get into that conversation. Now, before we go, because my curiosity is piqued. I just feel like we are going to have wildly different brackets. I don't want you to go through every matchup, but I am curious, what is in each of y'all's final 4? Talk me through the matchup, who gets to the final, and who wins your personal bracket.
If we talk Hack the Planet, and everyone can obviously see the brackets if you jump online, I don't actually have a problem, except for the sneakers thing. Because for me, War Games still feels like I know it wasn't the first, but it feels like the best representation of like the hacker community in that time. As much as I love hackers and it's eminently quotable and pretty much anything Matthew Lillard is in, it makes me laugh in some way, shape, or form.
Yes.
There's something about the unintentional stuff that David and Jennifer got into that set on this motion that I would still have War Games out there. I'm upset because I would have loved to seen what people voted for Sneakers versus War Games, because they are like 10 years difference, but they are very kind of similar in enough ways that that would be interesting head to head.
The same people wrote both movies.
Well, there you go.
Yep.
So someone needed a paycheck.
Yes.
So in the hubris of man, Jurassic Park, honestly.
Okay.
All of the
you're matching up with the community so far.
Yeah. There are some of the stuff like if we talk the beginning, the round of 32 versus the quarterfinals. Yeah, I am 100% on board with those. I would say I was upset about Office Space coming through Paranoid Android, but Office Space didn't really have incredible contenders. So, like, that was the clear win. The 2001 versus Office Space was the weird one for me. Because just like you, like one is a pinnacle of cinema, and it's just gorgeous start to finish, and people talk about it to this day. And Office Space, people also talk about it to this day, but normally about smashing printers. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, there's that. And as far as I'm sad that Ghost in the Shell didn't move further. The original animated one, just because it is visually brilliant and tells a very interesting story.
Yes.
I did like in the very first round we had the Terminator, the first one, not T2, versus Total Recall. And that was interesting just for the Arnie v. Arnie commentary that happened with it. But I don't have a problem with Matrix coming. Like, these are the four, if I went way out and drew it myself, these are the four with a possible shift to Sneakers and Hack the Planet, just because I think it's a more technically well done movie in that space. But these are the final four matchups I would have.
Okay. And who's moving to your final? Who are you picking, Kevin, in your personal bracket?
Mine, for S's and G's, it would be War Games versus The Matrix.
War Games versus The Matrix. And who comes out on top?
For me, War Games, because it was formative, but The Matrix I know would win because it's pretty.
Yes. But yeah, we're talking voting from your heart, what you want. So Kevin is picking War Games all the way. Chrystal, what about your final four? What's your bracket look like?
I think from Hack the Planet, because I've only seen half those movies, Hackers would have been the final four from that bracket. As I mentioned earlier, I enjoyed it more than I enjoyed War Games, and I didn't watch it in my formative years. I only watched it as an adult. So it's a little different lens that you came at it from. From the hubris of man, it 100% would have been Jurassic Park.
Nice.
100%. I don't like there's other great movies in here. We talked about RoboCop. I actually really enjoyed the Upgrade movie as well. So that was actually a difficult bracket for me because I don't have the huge nostalgia for RoboCop that I probably should. Came out the year that I was born. So like I've seen it, but and I've seen it several times, but for me, it's not as formative, I think, as anything else. Jurassic Park would have gone all the way. I haven't seen some of those movies as well. Like I haven't seen Lawnmower Man, for instance. So I had no frame of reference. I have seen Weird Science. And when I watched, and I did not feel like that should move on. So I was happy that it didn't. there are some problems with that film.
There are many problems with that film. But it does have a cultural zeitgeist attached to it.
Yeah. Paranoid Android, I was not super attached to any of the movies. Office Space, I think, was fine to win it, even though it doesn't make sense for Paranoid Android, as you mentioned earlier. I think that's a great movie. It fulfills a lot of our need to be seen in the corporate world, right? Like, you want to be the guy that sits there and says, I'm not doing anything and get promoted for no reason. Those things, you want to be that guy. And then Tech Noir, 100% would have been The Matrix. I think it was good that it was Terminator versus The Matrix. That would have been mine as well. And Terminator is obviously amazing, but The Matrix was like formative for anything that I know about IT. Like anything at all. I my history, I didn't like set out to get into IT in any capacity at all. And so like that movie formed a whole frame of reference for me around cyberspace and like what could exist and what if you were in the Matrix, right? I mean, all of those questions we had and that we asked as the later ones came out that weren't as good, but we still watched them.
Mhm.
And so the Matrix would have been the winner for me. And it was the winner of the bracket, but of the options that we had, I think that the Matrix would have won it all for me.
Nice. So you chose the Matrix to win it all. Yes, mine is very different. From Hack the Planet, I would have had Real Genius as the representative for that. To me, it's a perfect film.
It is gorgeous and underappreciated by today's persona. Like people today do not understand how Val Kilmer is in that movie.
Oh, I unashamedly just tried to model my personality off Chris Knight, his character in that movie. And of course, everybody was annoyed with me, but it was just like, no, this is the coolest dude since another Val Kilmer Iceman. Like this guy's just ridiculous. Hubris of Man for me, I'm going RoboCop. Just man, Murphy just means so much to me. I'd buy that for $1. Paranoid Android, we have 2001: A Space Odyssey. That's making it to my final four. And from Tech Noir, it is Blade Runner as my representative.
Mm-hmm.
And so on the one side of the bracket, we have Real Genius versus RoboCop. Real Genius is winning it. It's moving on to the final. And then this 2001 versus Blade Runner for me was the toughest matchup because, in my opinion, both of them are classics, masterpieces directed by auteur directors. They are complete visions. But Blade Runner, and you mentioned it earlier, Kevin, has a huge asterisk marked by it. Because if you go out and buy the Blu-ray of Blade Runner, it comes with 3 different versions of the film. It comes with theatrical, director's cut, and then the final cut. Now, if it was the final cut versus 2001, I would choose Blade Runner. But 2001's just, it's the same as it ever was. It is beautiful, perfect. And I don't understand, honestly, how Blade Runner got so much legs because that theatrical cut is rough stuff. Yeah, it is a slog to get through.
The pacing is horrendous in it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and then the notoriously bad voiceover from Harrison Ford. It is a completely different movie. So because of that asterisk, 2001 is moving to the final for me. So I have Real Genius versus 2001, and it's Real Genius all the way, baby. it's winning my bracket. Yeah, I got to just vote with my heart.
Yep.
Real Genius,
the only way.
Yes, yeah. Exactly.
And that is a perfectly acceptable one. I think one of the things I definitely want to do next year for the bracket battle is get the blank bracket, essentially like the 33, whatever categories, because next year it's not going to be movies. We always want feedback. Mm-hmm. What do you want to see in the bracket battle for next year? We get the 33 blank and we give everyone a printable copy.
And have them fill it in.
And have them fill it in beforehand so we can have like this was mine versus This is how the community voted across it. Because I think that would be super interesting in some of the ways these things filter down.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just us 3, we have 3 completely different winners for every single one. So yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that is going to do it for this little mini kickoff episode for season 2 of Movies and Mainframes. Chrystal, Kevin, thank you for being here. Thanks for sharing your bracket picks with me. And thank you to the listeners. I want to hear from you. Head over to THWACK.com, look for Movies and Mainframes, leave me a comment, and you can always email me at moviesandmainframes@SolarWinds.com. All right, everybody, like I said, look out for that episode of The Winner, The Matrix, coming out soon. Well, that's going to do it for us now. We are going to log off, and until the next time, we will see you later. Bye, everyone.
Movies and Mainframes.